Good. Really, the only thing I've really had to say to lead off is, the spring's been productive. Our guys have been just chipping away, getting better. Year two is a totally different animal than year one in a good way, as far as teaching and them understanding what's expected of them, and then really just taking the next step. Every position has different steps they need to take, and they've been working hard, and we're chipping away. I do see a lot of growth in different areas, areas that we need to focus on, and that we've been very successful with what we've had to work with, but we got a long way to go. So we're cautiously excited about where we're at, and we got a long way to go, and ready to get to work tomorrow morning. We get another chance, so looking forward to that.
Hey, Tim. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Yeah. Having signed Bryce George now, you can talk about him, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Make sure. Okay.
Then yes.
Yeah. I know he was a tight end out of high school. Did you recruit him at Western Michigan?
I did.
Okay.
From Detroit, tight end, got hurt his senior year, great athlete. George handles all the, it's just ironic that when his name came across the desk, I knew who he was, and I knew the family a little bit, and had a ton of success, obviously, at Ferris. And his offensive coordinator was one of my coaches in college. So called him immediately. He had nothing but great things to say about him and his family. So excited to get him into that competition up front.
So my question was, I know he played right tackle at Ferris. Mm-hmm. Is the vision to move him over to left? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. There's a lot of competition up there. Obviously, feel really good. A right tackle with what we got going, and we've been moving, kind of trying to move all with Lauk and Dotes, and obviously when he shows up, it's going to be a third amigo in that battle that they're doing. They're all getting better. It's funny, from day to day, offensive linemen normally take a little bit longer. Watching the way Dotes is coming off the ball right now is different than last spring. It's been exciting to watch. Lauk, same way. He's extremely talented athlete. He's got great feet. So it's been fun to watch those guys, and we've been really rotating them everywhere. And we'll probably do the same with Bryce, until George really feels that he fits in somewhere. The left is obviously the biggest position we're working on, but there's a lot of different moving parts. George does an unbelievable job of moving people around. Guards playing tackle playing guards. Not worrying really about winning a drill in practice, but trying to continue to expand their growth as understanding the offense. I'm sure once we get into camp, we're going to start narrowing it down and getting people in the best place to help us.
David Eichel, 24/7 Sports. Tim, we got the chance to talk with Mark a couple weeks ago. It just seemed like he kind of oozes natural leadership and perspective. I guess, how have you seen him kind of, I know he's not obviously fully cleared, but coming in kind of earn the respect of the offensive players, his teammates, and just sort of picking up the system. And then looking at the quarterback room as a whole, it's kind of crazy to think that it's a completely revamped room just from that last spring. So I guess talk about the depth of it and kind of how you guys are moving in the directions there.
Yeah, so Mark's done a great job. He came into a building, obviously, where, Sully was very well respected, one of the leaders on our team, and did a great job of, those guys became friends, just the way they approach the business every single day. Of being a pro and wanting to work in the weight room. You can earn a lot of respect as a quarterback in the weight room, and that's something Sully did, and Mark, really. And so he's done a great job. He hasn't been able to do much, I don't know. I think he's throwing a Nerf ball right now, something like that. I'd like to see him throw a real one eventually. But he's doing a lot. We have him back there taking mental reps, extremely intelligent. But I've been very impressed with just how he's acclimated himself to our team. Not coming in with any kind of expectations other than to come in and compete. That was probably the most important question that I asked guys on the portal is, what are your expectations? My plan is for you to come in and compete. And some of them love that word and some of them don't. And if they don't, then you probably won't fit in very well here, because everyone's going to have to earn their spot. And so he's ready to do that. I'm excited to see him get out there when he can. But just talking football with him, you can tell he's played a lot of football. And he's seen a lot of coverages, he's seen a lot of blitzes, and he knows how to react well. And so that'll be fun to see it come to light when he's able to get out there.
Chad Leistiko, Des Moines Register. We talked to a bunch of receivers last week, and they seem to be pretty optimistic about how the passing game is elevated a little bit, even with different quarterbacks now. So I guess what have you seen? We talked to you, I think, last mid-season maybe.
Yeah.
And you're like, the passing game takes the longest in the Shanahan system.
It's taken a long time.
So where's it at now?
It's growing. I think the biggest difference is, one, we're healthy. All our receivers are healthy. When I got here, I was very impressed with the wideout room. They were just young, But when you know what you're doing, you run. You run. We are running right now, which is fun to watch. To watch Seth Anderson run and Weege run, like they're not thinking about what to do. They're thinking about how to run the route. And so there was a lot of thinking going on last year. There's not a lot of thinking going on. It's really just trying to press the issue, especially when you're trying to stretch the field vertically. The ability to run a route and not look back at 5 yards and don't look back for 20, And Seth's done a really good job of that. Dayton's doing a good job of that. So it's been fun just because we're a faster team right now in the passing game because they're running faster. The plays haven't changed. They just have run them, enough times finally. So I think that's really helped us, with the quarterbacks because they're getting themselves more open. Obviously, the quarterbacks, the more open the receiver are, it's been really helpful to them to have the tight ends know what they're doing, the wideouts know what they're doing, and they're starting to learn coverage, which is a big part of this offense. I don't know how much it was before when we started teaching them coverage and why we motion and what information we pick up from the motions. They looked at me kind of funny when I first got here. Now they're starting to answer questions. I asked Dayton a question the other day in a unit meeting. He led off his answer with, "Well, I know it's man coverage because of the motion." And I stopped and clapped, and I was like, "That was a great start to this answer." The coverage now, so now you're going to run the route. And so they're starting to see things. So I think they're more comfortable with the system, and I'm excited with where they're at. We got a long way to go, but they're just more confident, and we're able to make nuances, adjustments really quick, and they can go out there on the next route. It's fixed. And so we're still a little short on routes sometimes because we get excited, and we get a lot of third down red zone situations where there's a lot of little nuances that we got to get better at. But I've been very happy with their progression as we expected that to happen, and it's obviously shown with some more success.
John Steppe, Gazette. Tim, good to see you.
Good to see you.
With Mark, obviously, once he's out on the field, what can a quarterback of his skill set really unlock in terms of what you want to do schematically? And any regrets back to your Western Michigan days of not offering him when he went to camp with you?
Well, we recruited him. I got to remember the year and how it went down, A lot of times when it comes to recruiting, especially at a MAC school, you offer like 10 dudes and hope to get one, so whoever commits first gets it. So just because you're happy to get one, So it's a different type of recruiting. Here we offer like one or two, and so I was way more offers. So I probably should have offered him, no doubt, with his success he's had. I think the biggest thing when you have a quarterback that can consistently provide positive football plays, it's a big word, positive football plays, especially when you're calling it aggressively, where he can bail you out of, hey, this is a bad look, just check it down, get us a yard, throw it away for all I care. Just don't take a sack, don't throw a pick. And it's been fun. We've had him in the back. He's been taking more mental reps than anyone else. And we see it on the film. So I know exactly where he would have gone. So the receivers know it. They all watch what Mark would have done on that play, because he's pointing to where he would have gone. And 90% of the time, it's the same as the guy that's holding the ball. Now, back there's no pass rush. So he's really comfortable back there, standing up, hopping up and down. But it's been good for him just to get reps because there's a muscle memory to everything you do, right? So, he's doing all the fake handoffs to nobody, him and his imaginary team back there. But he's having a blast doing it. And when he actually gets out there and he has to bring all the motions and do all the movements, we're just trying to shorten the curve, really, so when he gets out there, we can start seeing a more comfortable version of a guy who's played, I don't even know how many games he's played, a lot. I know how much he's thrown for, which that has to be a lot of games. So he's very comfortable, and my job is to get him more comfortable so we can get him ready to compete in the fall.
Scott Docterman with The Athletic.
Hey, Scott.
You were decided not to go on the road this year recruiting.
Yeah.
What was kind of your reasoning? What was Kirk's reasoning for that? And then how did that impact you this spring and what you were able to do to the offense and take it another step forward?
It was huge, to be honest with you. It was everything in the offseason is optional, But me being in my office when you had, Jimmy graduated high school early and came in, Hank was new, obviously Mark was new. And so I was in my office every morning, and I think one of them lifted at 6 and would roll in about 8:30. And we really didn't have anything to talk about other than what questions do you have? And we would just talk football, And for those 3 guys that literally just came here, even young Jimmy, I mean, he's swimming a little bit, as he should be. But they're way further ahead because of the amount of hours we were able to spend. And they were all in different lifting groups. So, like, one was like 8 to 9:30 or whenever he left. And then Hank would roll in, and he'd be there for a couple hours. And then Mark would roll in, and he'd be there. It would be 1 o'clock before I knew it. And then the next day we'd do it again and again, and all the way through Friday. And it happened for, almost 2 months. So it was huge for us. I had a chance to sit and watch film with the offensive unit if they wanted to watch, and we got to kind of watch some cut-ups as a whole. It's always great when the O-line, hears what I'm telling the quarterback, and the wideouts hear what I'm telling the O-line. I love asking offensive line, what's the coverage here, and Lojo's right 99% of the time, which I think impresses everybody in the room. But just having them all in a room a couple times a week was big. And not they couldn't always make it because it's optional, but it really was kind of galvanizing for what we were trying to do last year. We watched every game we lost and the things we didn't do well, and talked through what we need to change to move forward. And so it was definitely a calculated situation. I think if you're really trying to develop quarterbacks, it's really hard to not be around them and do that. It's also hard to recruit them when you're not on the road. So I mean, it's a give and take. But I think it was obviously a great decision. We've had, I think, more success in the spring for sure with those guys than we would have if I came back off the road and we had a couple weeks and then we went rolling into spring ball, because we got to answer all their questions and watch a ton of film. And so I think it was a good decision, but it was the first time I've ever done it. First time I think there's a lot of teams doing it now. And I think it's going to continue to happen more and more after the benefits we've seen from it.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Good to see you, Tim.
How are you?
Good. How about you?
Good.
Jimmy, Jackson, and Hank, all of them, 3 of them have been there since at least the preparations for the bowl game.
Bowl game, yeah.
Yeah. How have you just, from starting then to now, how have you seen kind of each of them grow?
Night and day, really. I mean, Hank obviously already played in the SEC, so he had experience. He just needed to learn what we were doing. Jackson was on the scout team till the last 4 weeks of the season, 3 weeks of the season. So he needed a lot more reps of running what we're running. And then Jimmy should be going to senior prom right now, and he's here with us. So he's had like really good weeks, and then he'll have a day where he gets lost and can't get himself out of, just forgetting to motion a guy, having the running back on the wrong side, not moving him. But he is way ahead of where he would have been. That 6 days and going to the bowl game and being a part of it and being a part of the team, being here for 6 months before the rest of his class comes, is really giving him a chance to compete, because it's going to be obviously competition. Hank's doing a great job right now. He's been the most efficient out there. Jackson's getting better. He has hot and cold days. We need to have, less cold, more hot. And then Jimmy, you just got to wait. You just got to wait it out. He's throwing the ball harder. He's more confident. He knows when he's wrong before I have to tell him. It's starting to happen, not every time. But yeah, it's a process with those guys. And the sooner the process starts, the sooner you get to the point where they can be effective. So I think it's huge that Jackson played a couple games, and that, although it's not good that Mark's not out there, they're getting a ton of reps right now, and that's going to help us moving forward.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report.
Hey, Tom.
You have a new analyst that
I
joined
do.
you with Warren.
Which one I got? 2.
I'm specifically talking about Warren, though.
Warren, yeah.
Yeah, what is he bringing to the table for you? Are you incorporating some of the things that maybe he was able to do at Wake Forest? Maybe, are we going to see slow mesh? See any of that stuff?
Trying to dabble in everything, that's a whole thing. I mean, it's an expensive, as Warren would say, it's expensive to do that, because you have to do it all the time. It has to be a major part of what you do. We've just talked about how he came up with it and what it does to a defense and trying to find ways. He's just been a super successful coordinator in Power 5 football for a long time, right? And what he did at Wake Forest and the amount of scoring, I've known him since my days at Syracuse. We were doing some things at Syracuse. He gave me a call, wanted to meet, talk football. He's a football junkie, which is great. So am I. And so we met God, how many years? A long time ago, 10 years ago, and we just kind of stayed in touch ever since. And obviously, unfortunate situation with their coach stepping aside, and he was available, and I mean, he was the guy I wanted from the day one, just because I like the way his brain works, and he's in the quarterback room with us. He's recruited and coached a bunch of successful quarterbacks. And when I'm not there and I'm over with the O-lineman or I'm with the tight ends, he's in the room with those guys. And so it's been really good. And we're trying to figure out, we have all his cut-ups in here, so we've watched some of the stuff they do. And so it's been a great start to the relationship. It's going to be even more helpful in the fall, because this is not an offense that you can game plan quickly, so he's going to be able to get ahead. When we get done with practice on Wednesday, he'll move forward to the next opponent, so he'll be a couple days ahead of us when we get in on Sunday. I think that's where it's going to make the biggest impact in our offense. But just having someone that's done it that we can lean on, that understands, from his interview, it was so evident he understands O-line play, he understands, linebacker play, he understands secondary and coverages, and so he's a perfect fit because the more ideas, the merrier, and he's got a ton of good ones, and so it's been a good start.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Tim,
Blake.
great to see you.
Good to see you.
I know going into last year, you revealed that cutting things in half is a big deal to you. And when you came here, Iowa was 132. You almost cut it in half to 72nd in total in scoring offense. I was just curious. You got into the top 40 at nearly every stop you've been. Is that something you're still kind of thinking about? Maybe this could be the goal this year, and is that potentially attainable?
We haven't set those yet, but yeah, that's exactly how you do it, right? It has to be attainable and realistic, right? I mean, when you coach long enough, you take over great teams, you take over teams that have struggled in different areas, and you're just trying to, turn the ship and get it headed the right direction, right? And so, last year looking at us, we were, we weren't very efficient passing team 2 years ago, and we were an efficient running team, So when you have something that's efficient, you try to find a way to make it explosive, and you have to find a way to make the passing game efficient. We were way more efficient this year in the passing game. We weren't nearly good enough. We definitely weren't explosive. But we were efficient on third down. Our third down percentages went up. We were good on third medium. We were definitely explosive thanks to number 2 and those 5 guys and the tight ends up front, but we're explosive in the run game. So now the question is, what's the next step, right? And what's that going to do for you? So the goal is always, to cut where you were at and cut it in half. I don't know what those numbers are. If we were, really high in something, I don't know if I'll keep it. We got to cut it from 10 to 5, or something like that. If you're in the top 20 or 30 in something, you're doing a pretty good job. But when you're on the lower half of the Mason-Dixon line, you got to get everything in there. You got to be able to do a little bit of everything. So haven't put those together. I have it on my whiteboard in there that we need to come up with the exact goals that we're going to present to the players. But it's definitely going to be, I don't know if it'll be in half, but it's going to keep trending that way. And hopefully give them a realistic goal so we can go have something to go attack.
Mitch Vick, KGAN.
Hey, Mitch.
Kamari had some explosive plays as well when he got his shot
Yes,
last year.
yes.
I don't know if I'm drawing this parallel just because I watched way too many games when you were in Kalamazoo of Caleb Ellaby and those guys. But they're the same height, they're the same weight, they're both running backs. Is Levante Bellamy a good comp? I mean, does he have the potential to maybe? I mean, you'd love those stats, I know. You love.
Well, Bellamy, Bellamy could fly now. I mean, Kamari does a lot more horizontally than Bellamy was a straight line guy, and he was way too fast to be in the MAC. It was great. He was on our team. I think he was Player of the Year in the league. I mean, he was a stud. But yeah, the thing that he has that's like Levante is that they can do multiple things in the pass game. They're good. The whole running back room right now it's a fun room to coach. Omar's taken over a extremely healthy room. Liddell did an unbelievable job with recruiting in that room. We have moved T.J. Washington back. The whole plan was to put T.J. at wide receiver so he could learn the pass game. So we now have a running back that knows the pass game, and he's a great running back, and he's really good out of the backfield, which is not something we had last year. And when you're trying to expand your pass game, that's always a good thing to have. So he can really catch the ball. So really that whole group in there, I think it's going to be a running back by committee, but having that experience, watching the way TJ and Kamari ran the ball in the bowl game, they were comfortable. They're putting their foot in the ground. I mean, day one, we handed Kamari the first run of the season. He ran right into the O-line, and he was nervous. I'm sure the game was happening fast, and it slowed down for him, right, which is really the point where he takes off. So I'm excited. He's kind of taking a leadership role in that running back room, and I'm excited for the year he's going to have because he's comfortable, he's ready to play, and he really understands, and can do so many things from running in between the tackles to running on the edges to catching the ball. So we're going to be able to do more things with the running back position, especially with TJ in there, than we were able to do in the past.
Hey, Tim, LA Clough, Hawkeye Beacon.
Hey.
I know you've had a ton of fluctuation in that quarterback room. Jackson Stratton, now the longest seasoned guy here
he's
at
a vet.
Iowa.
Got here in June? Did he get here in June? I think he got here in June last year. Yeah.
So I know you've got Jimmy here early. I mean, looking at the fall, you'll have 2 walk-ons. You'll have 2 freshmen, Hank, who just got here, and Mark, who just got here. I guess how
Thanks.
I'm not sorry.
Okay.
I know. How confident are you in your quarterback room's depth? Or do you think you're going to add another quarterback via the portal?
Oh, yeah. With Sully left, that opens up a spot. You know, you have to be the right person, the right fit. You have to have enough knowledge that we think the guy could help us, you know. It's not my number one thing because we're in the middle of spring ball, so I'm really just focused on those guys. I do like our depth. I mean, obviously Jackson's played before. The young kids got a long way to go. We're gonna see kind of how they develop. But Hank's really taken to it. He's done a really good job. I'm excited to see Mark. It is ironic that none of them, other than Jackson, have ever played before, you know, here, wearing the Tiger Hawk on their helmets. So, you know, it's a challenge. I think the people around him help a lot. It's also rare to have a guy that's thrown for 10,000 yards in your room, you know? So that's helpful. There's some good with it. There's some good with it, but it's a great room. Even, you know, Sully, we love Sully, and it's a tight room, and I'm excited for him and his future. But it's a good group that kind of support each other because they're all kind of learning this thing together from the start. And it's way easier to learn when the people around you know what they're doing. You know, when you turn the corner and there's 3 guys open as opposed to everyone ran the wrong route, you know, and because they blame the quarterback no matter what, right? If you take the ball and matriculate it down the field, you did a good job. If you don't, you stink. It's the way it works. And so with the guys around them playing well, it's really allowed those guys, I think, to have a little bit more confidence. And coach has done a great job of putting us in tough situations. And we're getting a lot of work done. We got a long way to go, but I'm happy where the room's at right now. And if something comes along that we can add somebody else in there to add depth, we would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, one of your analysts, Billy, you worked with him at Western Michigan. He was in the NFL for a while.
Yep.
Taught tight end and O-line, wide zone. A lot of what he did. And Omar has experience in the Shanahan offense too. How have they helped you kind of formulate your scheme going forward, or tweaking things on the field to help it really perfect what you want to do?
It has been fantastic to have some other people that can speak the language, right? We have a bunch of coaches that are returning that are doing a phenomenal job, and they're in year 2, and they understand it way more and have ideas. But then you bring in 2 guys that have been doing this for years, you know. They have to learn some of the nuances that we had to change to get it to fit a college field and some of the timing. You know, the speed of the receivers is a little different. So we've made some adjustments, but they've picked it up. You know, even the interviews when they start, you know, teaching our own protection to us, you know. It's been really impressive to have them here. You know, I always, like Matt in Green Bay, he would never hire a guy unless he could help game plan. Like, you need ideas. We're going to run the same plays a lot of ways, right? And finding more ways to run the same play and make it look different, the more ideas you can get, better. We talk about Warren, same way. But those 2 guys, you know, have a ton of experience in running this exact system. So they've come in with immediate ideas. Our guys that were here last year that I had to teach everything to tried my best to teach, be an O-line coach and then be a tight end coach and kind of coach the coaches first. They're in year 2, you know, and Billy obviously was a GA for me and then was with the Jets with Mike LaFleur. And so he knows it forwards and backwards. And he's with the tight ends in that room when he sits in a room, but really he's here to help game plan and understand the system. So we've watched a lot of Jets film. We've watched a lot of Bears and Packers and just try to find ways that can continually evolve our offense, right? So that, you know, we can run the same play and Phil thinks it's different plays every single time we run one, right? That's the goal. And so they brought more and more ideas to the table, which is huge. And so that part has been a lot of fun for me. It's just the beginning. We haven't really game planned. We're not really game planning. We're just trying to find new ways to run the same play so our guys get good at the techniques. But trying to make it look different to our defense every single time. So it's already been big. When we get to game planning and we see different fronts and like, hey, when we saw this front, we'd put this run with this can, pull the film up, we watch it, we love it, it's in. That's the kind of stuff that's invaluable, you know. And you normally, when you game plan, you normally have a ton of guys with ideas. Last year it was not so much that way, and that's one of the major things we needed to get changed going forward, and having, Billy and Warren start early and be a couple days ahead, and having obviously Omar with a ton of experience coaching running backs under Getsy, with the Bears. It should continue to help us. My job as game planners is really simple. Like, we have to go out there and execute. My job is to hopefully help them get better leverage so their execution, can be done easier, right? That's the job. They still have to execute. We still got to get to the right depth. We got to throw a strike. But hopefully, whether it's disguise, whether it's they think it's a different play, the run play looks like a pass play, all our run plays should look like, look exactly like a play pass, sorry. But, the more ideas we have that we can help our guys, hopefully make it a little bit easier to execute. That's the main goal of a coach, with the shifts and the motions and the leverages. And so that's really what we're hoping it comes to fruition this fall by having those here. But it's been fun to have them here. The room it's different. It's a fun room. The confidence of the guys that were here last year is totally different. So we're excited for getting the coach. I'm talking about the coaching staff. It's been a fun group to be around, and spring's been good, and I'm excited to get into the fall and start game planning with that group.
And the biggest thing right now is, trying to find the younger guys and try to get them on a wave that, hey, they can be a chance to get in the game, then they got to be ready to go. So very pleased with the way people are working right now. And, obviously we're not playing anything right now, but that's about it. I'll open up the questions.
Phil, you've got some big shoes to fill at linebacker. How is Jaden Harrell, Carson Shire, that Rex Roth, that group, and the group behind them continue to develop?
I think all three of those guys are really doing a good job. And you kind of go like every year, you start going back and you say, hey, the guys that left before, you look at Jay and Nick and Fisher, them guys took off, but who led those guys? You had Campbell before them, and then you start going back. Every one of these guys are good players as you're going. These guys, it's time for them guys to step up, and I think they've been really doing a good job. You look at Montgomery, he's done a good job, so and really like what Carson's doing, so them guys are really working well. And obviously there's some other parts of, in the back end. We lost some guys in the back end, and to replace those guys, I think, with a guy like Lutmer having a chance to play a little bit more out there. Cohen's doing a good job. Obviously X is doing well. TJ's playing well in the back end, and Deshaun. So, this is the growth of how they're doing and how they keep on improving every week and every practice, I think, has been really well.
Chad Lystico, Des Moines Register. Pretty much know what Ethan Herkett and Aaron Graves bring to the table, but I think there's some projection maybe with Max Llewellyn, how he can be an every down guy. And then the two transfers, can you kind of talk me through each of those three guys and what your impressions have been thus far of those three? Hawthorne and Pace.
Yeah. Hawthorne and Pace, I think that, obviously they're coming from a good program, and they played a lot of football where they have, and I think they're really going to be able to help us out. I see those guys getting into the mix right away. I think them guys obviously give us depth, but, you can see them rolling them in, even on the first series or whatever it is. I think they've done a good job, and obviously Graves has been doing it so long. You got Pittman's been a little bit injured a little bit and backing off, but he's doing well. Very happy with the inside guys. I think Max Llewellyn, he's really improved. He's been playing both sides. So I like his progression as he gets, as you get older and mature and you start understanding the game a little bit, he's been playing very well. So I'm happy where they are right now. We're good inside, and development of on the other side of Herkett, he's obviously an established player, but with his leadership, he hasn't practiced very much. He's been out a little bit, but and you get Allen if he can come back and help us out. I think it'd be good. So we're not where we want to be yet, but we're getting there.
Scott Docterman, The Athletic. I wanted to ask kind of along those lines of the defensive line, losing somebody like Y.A. Black, who was an underrated nose, really did some damage for you as far as taking up blockers. Do you have a player who could play like Y.A., or is this going to be kind of by committee until somebody kind of establishes themselves in that regard?
Well, obviously, when you lose good players, you want the other players to come on. And what we did help reinforce ourselves with the portal, so that has helped us a little bit in that depth area. I think it's going to take, all four guys to help us out a little bit and playing a little bit, maybe a little bit more of everybody. He played a lot more than, some guys at some point take more snaps. But I think with the rotation nowadays, you still got to have that rotation up front, I think, is very important. I think the depth that we did in the portal and bringing guys in like that's going to help us.
Hey, Phil. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I wanted to ask about defensive back. I know you mentioned Cohen, Zach, and those guys, and, of course, TJ and Deshaun. Some of those younger guys that have now been around for more than a year, Jalen Watson, Rashad Godfrey, I guess what have you seen from them at that cornerback spot?
Yeah, I've seen some growth. Obviously they're, their first year here last year, and Jalen got a little bit more playing time than Godfrey. You start working at it. There's another guy that we flipped over a year ago was Moda. He came in. I think he's really jumped up the last couple practices, so I was impressed with him. So there's going to be some guys competing, with it. If we can get 5 or 6 guys getting ready, obviously, do we have enough guys in the back end? We're probably going to have to be, open to bring other guys in to help us out in the back end to have a full team.
John Seppi, Cedar Rapids Gazette, kind of along those lines with the secondary. It seemed like there were maybe a few more big plays given up last year than what would be kind of characteristic for you guys. Kind of what do you attribute that to, and what's the key to kind of correcting that this year?
Well, I think, sometimes you have to go look at it and evaluate it. Obviously, we gave up way more than we usually have, but, our standard's a little bit higher than everybody else's about giving those up. So when you give them up, why? And I think it's sometimes, where we're trying to press too much and try to say, hey, do we have to make that play? I think, let the plays come to you. I think it's a lot easier than saying, hey, I got to go out and make a play. And sometimes it's like that. You give up some plays that you shouldn't, but, overall, you give up, you're 11th in the country in scoring defense, something like that. I mean, it's still good, but it's not as good as we like it. So, we got to work on that, and we're obviously going over here the last, 13 practices. We probably give up a little bit more than I'd like, but I think it's been very competitive in the spring. So, they're doing a real good job against us, and, they're trying to get our eyes all over the place, and you slip and miss a guy, and all of a sudden it opens up for an explosive play. So you're constantly, this is our philosophy is don't give up the explosive plays, and hopefully, 2 or less, and hold them to 13 points. Hopefully you have a chance to win a game.
Owen Sebring with KGAN. I want to ask a question that's a couple months old, but I want to have you bring me back to Super Bowl Sunday and where you were when you see Cooper DeJean, one of your former guys, returning interception for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. What's your reaction like in that moment?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I don't really watching the Super Bowl unless you have somebody in it, and obviously Cooper was in there, and the play kind of reminded me a little bit of, I think it was either Rutgers or Maryland, one of those plays over there, very similar play that he picked off and ran for a touchdown in one of the other games that he played in as a corner. And you could just see the way he moved around. He read the quarterback a little bit, and as soon as he caught the ball and he cut across, it just reminded us, he's probably going to score. Just like any kind of punt return that he might have had in Minnesota. Same type of deal. The guy has a great talent, has great vision. Just a really good football player, and I was happy for him, for how humble he is, and, for him not even thinking he could even play here at some time when he first was coming out, and, probably coming out of high school, can he really play here? And to see him grow as a person and see him how he excelled, and, he wasn't starting at the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden now he becomes the head of it, and I'm really proud of the way he handled himself in that situation. I'm sure Philly is too,
Mitch Vick, KGAN, you brought up Alex Moda, who's a few weeks into moving over to the other side of the ball. If you watched him at Marion, anybody in this room knew you could plug him in a spot and he was going to perform. Just if you could talk about the process of him flipping over to the other side of the ball, and I know he's battled some injuries the last couple of years too.
Yeah, when he came over, obviously he had a wrist problem, and he's trying to practice with a, club on his hand and stuff, so it was a little hard for him. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I see the progress of what he's done. He's made some really good plays. He's starting to get comfortable with what he has to do. It's a little bit different on offense. They give you a play, you got to do it, you got to adjust. But it's different. You know where you're going instead of reacting. And I think he's done a really good job, and he's improving. And, it's going to take over the summer and, camp to say, hey, this kid has a chance to go out there and compete.
Hey, Phil, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I wanted to ask about Xavier Wampa moving from strong to free safety, and why you think that's a better fit for him.
Well, I think it's another opportunity. We had some other guys that were trying to get on the field over there, and I think sometimes if you want to try to bring him down in the box, a bigger guy, it'd be helpful, I think, to bring him down there. I wouldn't say a linebacker depth at times. I guess we'd bring him down, and I think he can see more, and I think he's more comfortable there at free safety. And with Lutmer and Cohen being on the other side, I think it was just a better fit, and I think he's happy there, and I've seen a real big improvement with him the last 3 weeks, so hopefully, we get him healthy and get ready to go for the summertime.
Chad Leistikow again. It feels like most years in recent memory you've known who your number one corner might be. I mean, maybe it's Riley Moss or Matt Hankins or Cooper or Jamari, but this year I don't know if it's quite as solid. When do you usually know if you've got kind of that number one guy at corner, or do you have that guy yet?
I kind of don't like to always give the answers to the test, you know what I mean? It's like I like to keep it on, just like I keep my wife off balance, you know what I mean, when I'm coming home. But, I think there's some guys that made some good improvement. I'll go back to T.J. Hall. I mean, the progression that he's made from, the first time that he's in there starting until he played a lot last year off and on all of a sudden until where he is right now, I think he's probably made the biggest jump of talking about being exact on every play. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect and everything, but I've seen the biggest growth is from him is where, you're starting to count on like, hey, I expect him. And the leadership was even better. And I could say that about all the guys right now, all the, the 5 top guys over there that's out there playing right now, holding the other guys, the younger guys, and demanding on, what the expectations is on the field. And, so I'd say right now probably TJ, but Deshaun Lee's done some really good things, so this seen the growth, but he'd probably be the top one right now.
Scott Docterman again with The Athletic. I wanted to ask about 2 of your guys that have played a lot last year and more in the sub packages, Cohen Entringer and Zach Lutmer. Lutmer was in a lot on dime, and it seems like those 2 are really kind of ascending players, that they had some really good moments. In what ways do you think that they can make that next step, and what do they bring quality-wise to the field that would suggest that they're kind of the next in line of a lot of the great players you've had over the last few years?
Out of those guys right now, I just think the way they've been, their movement, you can go out there and just start watching the improvement they have in their footwork, and then obviously some things that you might not be able to evaluate just by the way they move around, but the way they diagnose plays and to be able to read the run pass keys and understanding what plays are being run against them based on the formation, based on the motions, just the growth of the knowledge of how to prepare for practice, how to prepare for a game. These guys have really grown, One thing about Lutmer, I would say he needs to be more vocal. Cohen, I don't think he's going to have a problem being vocal. I think he's taken his good leadership over there. But you got to drag it out. You got to make sure that they're talking. Communication is a big part of it. Because usually, I don't care where you do it, you look at the film and you're going to say, hey, the guys that usually screw up mentally, or that's why it happened. Not too many times are you going to be beaten physically. It's going to be usually it's a mental lapse, and that's playing any team. They're trying to get you off balance, trying to control your eyes. I think the eyes are the most important thing. Then I think your feet are, and then your feet, and then your hands, and be able to be on balance. And going back to Cooper, that he was really special at that, and I see that in Lutmer, and I see it in Cohen, and they have ability to go down and play the cash. They got the ability to play free safety. They got the ability to play strong safety. So moving them around sometimes is good, but sometimes it could be overwhelming too. So you got to watch how you handle it, and don't wear them out.
Thanks, all you guys, for being here. It is a beautiful day outside right now, and you guys could be like on a run or a bike ride or something like that, but you're here, so appreciate you being here. Just kind of give you guys a brief overview of where we're at spring football. Just finished our 13th practice. I'm sure you caught that from Phil, but also kind of where we are in regards to special teams. And during the spring football, it's a great teaching time, a great opportunity for young guys to learn and improve and try to get a little foothold for themselves moving into fall camp. And this spring has been nothing short of that, so it's been good from that standpoint. We install a punt, field goal block. Those are the phases that get installed, and then the rest of the other phases we kind of install piece by piece, drill by drill. Nothing schematic goes in those during that time. So that's kind of where we're at, and it's been really fun. See some young guys taking a step forward, trying to teach them the skills, the techniques that they need to be able to compete and help our football team here come fall and in the season. And you see a lot of progress, a lot of good work from guys. It's also a really good time to help galvanize the team, build the team, kind of push the team and the units forward. So it's kind of where we're at right now. And in regards to the specialists, I'm sure that'll be asked, so I'll probably get off to it right away. But starting off with Drew Stevens, most experienced guy, senior right now, definitely has grown and matured. You guys have heard me say that about him before, and he keeps doing it. And it's really fun to watch, and he's really in a good place. Right now, he's kicking the ball really well. He's working on his leadership, which isn't necessarily natural to him because he is a pretty quiet guy, pretty focused guy. But it's really been fun watching him grow in that role, and he's doing a really good job with it, kicking the ball incredibly well right now, as good as I think I've seen here. So that's fun to watch. And behind him right now, young guy, Caden Bohr from Bettendorf, for those of you guys from the Quad Cities. He's doing a really good job, man. Kid really should be in science class right now in high school, but he chooses to be here, so he's getting a little bit of a jump. He's doing really, really well. Bright future, been a good addition to the room. It's fun watching he and Drew kind of, it reminds me of Drew as a freshman when Drew was, kind of very talented, but kind of just like crazy, head all over the place, right? And now you see Drew the other way, where he's more mature, level-headed, and then you have Caden. So it's fun, I think, for Drew. You guys can ask him this if he sees it this way, but to see like, man, that was him when he was a freshman. But from a talent standpoint, ability standpoint, it's all out there for Caden. Has been really good, good addition. Talking about the punter, Reese having a good spring. Sort of got thrust into everything last year. I think you guys, I know I've been on record saying this before, you saw him kind of improve each and every game last year, each and every opportunity as he learned the game and understood the game. He's sort of at a point right now where he's at that point, but now we're trying to adjust and trying to tweak, and how much better can we be, how much more consistent can we be punting the football. He's improved dramatically as a holder. He's done a really good job in that role, and I'm excited for him. And the sky's the limit, I think, for him as well. I think we saw some of that last year as well. Okay, and then with him working at punter is also Ty Nissen. Ty's a senior, been steady for us, been kind of quiet. He served as the holder last year, did a really, really good job with that role, continues to do well with that. He's also improved his punting. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the strength and conditioning program. He's faster, he's stronger, his leg is stronger. If you guys think of it, and you that play golf, his swing speed is much faster. And I think it surprises him at times with some of the balls he hits and connects with. So that's also been interesting to watch here this spring. Then as far as long snapper goes, Ike Speltz is the one snapper we have here on our roster. He's going into his redshirt freshman right now, going into his third year. Done a really good job. In the spring, he's doing the work of two snappers right now. He's servicing everybody, so he's snapping a ton. We're sort of trying to fast track him developmentally wise that way, and he's done a good job with that role. And all Ike lacks right now is game experience. It's what he just doesn't have, but the only way to get that is to get him in the game. So that's what he's working towards right now. We'll add another piece here going into fall camp. I'm unable to speak about that at this moment, but that's kind of where everything is from a special team standpoint, specialist standpoint. So all that winded stuff. Anybody have any questions?
I have our John Steppe Gazette with Reese Dakin. we were talking to him a week or two ago, and he talked about adding a bunch of weight. How do you see that kind of helping him this year, and have you been able to see the difference yet?
Yeah, I think it's physics, right? If you think about heavier, right, more mass and strength into the ball. I know it worked with Drew Stevens when he was young as well. I think definitely seen improvement from Reese. He's also trying to be a little bit more consistent with that. I think anytime you add mass, it needs to be good weight, and I know Ray and his staff are doing a good job with that.
Hey, LeVar, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon.
All right.
You didn't mention kickoff at all, right? Is that not something that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, so we don't actually the kickers don't actually work on kickoff in spring. A lot of that is to do with, we're trying to save the legs for training camp and in the fall camp. Schematically, we don't install the kickoff coverage scheme right now in spring, but we do work on the fundamentals of how to cover kicks and in competitive drills in that regard. So that went in on last Saturday. We continued that yesterday. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Okay. Looking at, I guess, return, I know Max White entered the portal, but you've got Caden. Are you guys kind of like looking at what you got and taking notes going into the fall regarding who could be that other kick returner alongside Caden?
Yeah, for sure. So I probably misspoke there. We do work on returns, punt returns and kick returns. The returners pre-practice every day. We have different drills, competitive drills we put them in. We just don't install the schematics of it during spring football. But it's kind of funny. I was talking with our special teams analyst, Brock Sherman, who does a phenomenal job, by the way. He and I were talking earlier. It's like, you know, knock on wood, but like, have you ever gone into, been in spring practice where you felt better about the returners? Like, I think we got a good pool of returners. Obviously, everyone knows Caden Weegan and what he did last year, and super pumped for him and excited for him. There's some good young guys coming up as well. Talk about KJ Parker, Terrell Washington. You're looking at Sam Phillips, who's done it in games in college. You're talking about Zach Lutmer. Go down the list of the running backs, McNeil with Kamari Moulton, talking about kick return. So there's definitely a good group, and so we're fun. It's been fun working with those guys. We really haven't, installed the scheme of kick return yet.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. LeVar, good to see you.
Good to see you, Blake.
Going back to Drew Stevens, going into last offseason, had maybe a bitter taste in his mouth, a chip on his shoulder, and now he's coming off of success and having a huge moment in the regular season finale. How have you seen him take that tiger inside of him and channel it in a positive direction? Because he said handling success can be more difficult than handling failure. And then for you as his coach, what was it like to see him have that moment against Nebraska, to have that redemption and to make the kick that he did?
Yeah, those are great questions you brought up, and I think you nailed it with Drew, because there was a tiger inside there. Saw that when he was a freshman. He was a little bit ornery. There's something about him, a little bit quirky. There's something about him that was inside of him, and he had great success as a freshman. Right, made 90% of his kicks, and if you look and you pay attention, you look who makes 90% of their kicks. Those guys play on Sundays in Pro Bowls, right? So it's hard to do what he did as a freshman, and I think kind of coming in second year. I think some of the maturity stuff that he maybe wasn't quite ready for that success and how to handle that. And I didn't do a great job as his coach. He and I have had those conversations. But I think what you saw, he got humbled real fast in his second year. And I think what you saw coming out of year 2 into year 3 was a more consistent guy, a more dedicated guy, a more focused guy. Talent's always been there. And then how do you harness it? How do you get him to see the things that you see the way that you see them? That's every coach's job, right? I'm sure Phil will tell you the same thing about as a DB. Tim will tell you the same thing as a quarterback. That you're trying to get the guy to see it the way you see it, see the game the way you see it. And I think Drew's done that. And all we've seen is this, And I haven't seen a ton of. I think when you look at young Drew Stevens, there's a lot on social media, a lot of stuff going on out there, rather than right now he's real focused and real deliberate with what he's doing. He's meticulous with his work. Man, he's a grown-up, and it's fun to watch.
Hey, LeVar, Tom Kakert, Hawkeye
How you doing,
Report.
Tom? Great to see you.
Doing well. Great to see you too. You had a really, solid long snapper with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen Ike kind of develop, and do you see that same level of consistency so far from him?
Yeah, I think if Luke heard you say the word solid, he might try to strangle you, because that's a word in our room that we don't like, because solid means average. Okay, so, but you don't know that? There's a long story that goes back to the specialist at Iowa that the word solid. But anyway, I think Luke did a tremendous job while he was here, and unfortunately, we have to send him out the door at some point. But I think that Ike has gotten a chance to watch Luke and watch how he operated, how he performed, and his daily routine, what he did. And Ike is a very smart kid, and he followed and he watched and he paid attention, and he saw all that stuff. So I think Luke gave Ike as much as he possibly could, from a preparation standpoint, mental standpoint. And now it's time for Ike to put that on the field and be himself, but still, do the things that he's learned. And we've seen that from Ike. He's had really good practices. He's had some ups and downs as well. But I think it's all in there with him. We just got to get the consistency ironed out. And again, I mentioned this before, but the only way to get experience is to get experience. And so at some point that's going to have to happen. So.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Good to see you, LeVar.
Hi, Tyler. Great to see you. I love how you guys introduce yourself. It's so formal too, by the way.
One thing KGAN talked about last week was the potential for guys to kick away from him. Are there things that you guys can do to adjust to put him in position to be able to return or counter the fact that teams might try to avoid kicking to him?
For sure. I think it starts with who's the guy back there with you. If you have another threat back there with you, that helps, right? So you get guys like I mentioned with Terrell, with Moulton, with McNeil, some other guys out there back there with you. That forces the kicker to have to kick it to one of you guys. So that's one thought. Okay, the other thought that we've had this with Amir Smith-Marset as well. We had to sort of prep him and get him ready to field balls wider than he would normally be used to fielding. So that's another thing that we've been working on or talking about as well. So that stuff is definitely going to be out there, and I would anticipate people trying to keep it away from KGAN, but I also, we play against good competition each week, so they're not going to kick away from them forever.
Scott Docterman with The Athletic.
Scott, great to see you.
Great to see you too, LeVar. You can make a case that no position group is more impacted by 105 than special teams, especially the way you guys have built. Kind of the walk-ons have become All-Americans, whether it's Caden Weegan or Charlie Jones or Drew Stevens or Keith Duncan, whatever. How does that impact you, the way you evaluate, the way you recruit, and now you have to keep certain players versus before you would be able to recruit, even in your own recruiting stomping grounds, you recruit small town players who a lot of times blossomed into important players. How is that impacting you on a special teams level that you're not going to have the extra 25 players to put on your kick units?
I'll start first with that in the specialist room itself, right? So our specialist room is trimmed down pretty tight right now. The thought before typically is you have 3 guys for each position, a snapper, 3 snappers, 3 kickers, 3 punters, with the thought of, okay, you have a starter and a backup, guys that are always competing, and you have a young guy you're trying to develop along to get in that mix. Those days, I think, are gone. So you're going to have 2 guys that that you can count on to go in the game, because things happen and injuries happen, sicknesses happen, whatever happens, that the next guy's got to be ready to go. That's been a point in this program for years, right? The next man in mentality. I think you're going to see that more and more often, not only in that room, in the specialist room, but also across the board. You're starting to see it in regards to special teams. It's going to be hard to keep guys on your roster just for special teams, or guys that, hey, maybe they can't cut it. We've had some guys that are coming to mind right now that maybe they weren't great at a position player, receiver, or DB, but they were phenomenal special teams players. Those guys, I think, are going to go a little bit further and farther between. But I think everyone just needs to be ready. That's why we coach everyone the same way. So we're trying to get everyone ready to play, because you never know when you're going to get called on.
David Eichholt, 24/7 Sports.
David, great to see you.
It's great to see you, LeVar. Appreciate the time. I was so known for the punt return coverage, kickoff return coverage, a lot of under-the-radar guys that sort of galvanize the unit, whether it be, over the years, that gunner position. I mean, who are maybe 1 or 2 of those guys that maybe don't get, I don't want to say appreciated from the outside, sure, but really instrumental in kind of galvanizing that group to make it so consistent?
You're talking about like current or guys that we project?
Like, yeah.
So I would say right now, if you're talking about the gunner position, right off the bat, you've got Cohen Entringer, you've got Zach Lupmer, guys that have done it in games. You've got TJ Hall, who's done it in games. Jalen Watson, who's done it in games. Those are guys that come out right away. Deshaun Lee, but those guys have done it. We've seen it. I think a couple other guys that may garner some attention or surprise this year. Alex Moda has done a really good job. Brevin Dahl has potential for that as far as gunners go. We've also seen Alex Eichmann. Got a chance to see him a little bit on kickoff coverage last year. Maybe he doesn't show up in the stat sheet all the time, but man, he is incredibly disruptive. You go back and look at some of, which I did yesterday, go back and look at some returns against our kickoff coverage unit that, man, Eichmann may not have made the tackle, but he was so disruptive, like in the backfield, making the returner go the opposite direction that other people make the tackle. So I think those are sort of the guys you're looking at right now. You know, the other guys that fit in that mix, I mean, you mentioned gunners. I'm talking about other coverage players. Nolan DeLong has done a really good job. I think quietly last year, we saw it in the bowl game with Chubbs, Landon Van Kickricks. Like, man, he knocked the crap out of this dude on the opening kickoff, Missouri, and he didn't say a word about it. Like, if you ever talk to Landon, like, he doesn't say anything, right? And so I thought, man, he must have got penalized, something happened, you know, but man, that was fun to watch. But we see that often here. We just don't always see it in Kinnick. You know, Carson, I know, you know, he made a ton of tackles for us. He's probably, as you know, statistically shows up in the stat sheet more with he and Rex and also Montgomery. But it's a great group, man. It's a fun group to be around. These guys work their butts off every day. They're super competitive. They get in there, they compete, and just trying to continue to build and see if we can make it better.
Chad Lice, Des Moines Register. I don't know how much you follow the NFL, but it's becoming more regular that guys just line up from 60 and kick field goals, and they just, like Brandon Aubrey, for example. Mm-hmm. Drew Stevens seems like he's got that potential to extend the range, what you can do in a game. I know weather's a factor, but like how far do you think he can push his range this year in terms of where you just send him out there just on a normal kick, not end of half or just like,
yeah,
you
like
know.
a normal kick or end of half?
No, like any time of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would say those are different scenarios.
No, I know. Any time of the game.
Any time of the game. I think Drew, you know, I've seen him do, and I know what Coach has seen him do. You're talking about 58 and in, like pretty regular. I've also seen him 68, 65, you know, somewhere in that. Like that's more of an end of half scenario, but definitely strong-legged. It's never leg strength. It's more the consistency of the line and how the ball is going to travel. That's an issue, or not an issue, but is a factor for him. But definitely, Drew definitely has the leg strength and leg ability. And again, you mentioned NFL kickers. I mean, that's sort of the norm right now. I think Drew's right in that mix, you know.
Ethan Petrick, Quad City Times.
Ethan.
Drew mentioned just how important the book you guys read last offseason was for his development and going from a field kicker to a more technique kicker. What book are you guys reading this offseason? How have the guys responded to it? And then if you could expand on the solid thing a little bit more, like where did that come from?
Oh,
I'd
man.
appreciate it.
I would love to. I'm not sure this is PG, but so starting with the book we read last year was a book called Golf: The Sacred Journey. That's a book recommended to us by Nate Kading, and it's really interesting if you ever get into it. I like golf. I'm awful, okay, but I do like to watch, and I get really intrigued when I watch high-level golfers because I feel like I see that a lot kicking, right? I get a chance to watch high-level kickers. It's fun to watch and how they think and what they see in their approach. The biggest thing I think for Drew was understanding the checklist that a pilot goes through or a golfer goes through. Like if you don't hit every step, man, the chances of you hitting a clean shot are not great. And I think Drew, the field kicker thing that you mentioned, Drew was that way early. But he couldn't tell you how he was doing or why he was doing it. He was more wishing as he hit the ball every time. Now, it worked until it didn't. And we all kind of saw it unravel a little bit his sophomore year. But I think that part of the book he really gravitated to and really helped him out. This offseason, the book, I have a couple in mind, but we haven't confirmed one yet because I'm letting the players have input on that. I know one book that Tori recommended was Mind Gym, which I've not read before or heard before, so that may be an interesting one. And as far as solid, this is going to, okay. So, happened in a meeting. We were watching practice, we're evaluating the film, we're watching, had a player, asked him how he felt about that ball, that punt he hit. There it is. Okay, so I gave you the punt piece. And he's like, it was solid. And I was like, solid? Like, that's like average. So we grade everything, right? So A, B, C, D, F. Okay, so I asked the guys, how did you feel about that? How did you feel about that ball? What grade that ball? So I know what you think an A+ is and what I know an F is. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty solid. It was, solid. And then it was not solid, okay? It was solid if you want to talk about high school punting and like, hey, I did this at this camp and that coach liked me and he followed me on Twitter and like stuff that I think is very average. And so it turned into solid. It became a very bad word. I think I slammed my desk and like, I'm not trying to be solid. I'm not trying to be average. But they got the message, and now it's become a running joke in the specialist world. So, yeah. But I will tell you that player did this after that. So there you have it. Yeah. That's the PG dumbed down version as best I can. Ask Keith Duncan or Shudak or any of those guys sometimes about it. It's solid. If you ever say, "Oh, that was solid," they'll get bristled up when they say, "That was solid."
Got 2 more for you, Coach. Mitch Vick, KGAN. You just named like 10 guys on the coverage team, gunners and all that. But between Jaden and Jackson and Carson, I mean, that's like 95 games of primarily special teams experience that now, rightfully so, get their shot at ones in the linebacking core.
Yeah.
Jaden Montgomery is still out there. You also lose Nestor to the portal. Eichmann's been out there. Just have you seen anybody start rising up in filling 90-plus games of special teams experience in coverage? Because those are really important reps.
I do, and I think you see a couple of young linebackers. You look at Cam Buffington, who was a freshman last year, got no playing time, maybe one kickoff I threw him on. And Preston Reese, again, 2 guys that are really showing up on defense and show up in my drills in the competition, so you get a chance to see that. Same thing with Derek Weiskopf. So those are guys that show up. Also the early enrollees with Carson Cooney and Blake Goucher. I mean, those are just to name some linebackers. Other guys you see, DJ Vanami is a tight end, does really well in those. Again, we put these kids in these positions, these drills, and these things that, to them that may not seem like much, but you can take that little snapshot and then you show it to them in special teams or show it to them on offense and defense, how it relates and how it helps them become a better football player. Then all of a sudden it clicks. I think we're seeing some of that because a lot of times when it's early and they're young, they don't always, it's hard, right? And they get in these awkward positions and it looks terrible to them and they can't figure it out. Then all of a sudden, the older they get, the more they understand the drill, the more they understand how it fits into football, they get better. And so that's what we're seeing right now. Those are just a handful of guys I can think of right off the top. I'm really dating myself, but Rashad Godfrey, he's another guy that keeps standing out to me in those drills.
Owen Sebring, KGN. Great to see you, Coach.
Oh, great to see you.
First off, I'll keep mine a little bit short. Are we going to see you at Drake Stadium over the next couple days?
Tomorrow, for sure. The rest, not sure because of commitments here. But yeah, tomorrow.
Gotcha. And we've got a guy.
I heard the weather's going to be great. Is that
What's
true?
that?
The weather's supposed to be nice, except tomorrow, May thunderstorm. But it's Drake, right? So
Drake's tough.
If you get anything above 60,
we're happy.
A win.
Yeah. We've got a guy in Luke Elkin who has a chance maybe to compete now to the next level. I was just going to ask if you've had NFL teams reach out about him because there's obviously very limited spots in the NFL for a long snapper, but do you think that he's got a pretty good chance of being picked up by a team here this offseason?
I do. I think Luke is as good as he wants to be, and he's going to be a really good pro. He's really good here, and he is a very diligent worker. I would never bet against Luke Elkin, particularly playing at the next level. The difference right now between college and pro is in the pros it may take you a little bit longer to get in, right? Because the practice squad rosters have extended. Rosters in general have expanded a little bit there. So sometimes I think they try to stuff guys or hide guys a little bit more. So that's the life of a specialist in the NFL. Unless you're drafted, I mean, you have to be willing to ride a year or 2 or sometimes 3. Just ask Casey Kreider. And 10 years later, he's doing what he's doing. He's doing it very well. So sometimes it takes that at that position in particular because of the roster limits. But I could definitely see Luke playing on Sundays. I've had plenty of people reach out, plenty of people come here to work him out. So yeah, Luke snaps a really good ball, man. The only thing he has not done yet is protect, right? And the only way we don't ask our guy to snap and protect, as far as punt goes, right? So that's the one thing he hasn't done. But it goes back to the beginning when I talked about Ike and experience. And the only way for Luke to get that experience is to get the experience, right? So at some point he's going to have to do that, and then some coach in the NFL is going to trust him, and some coach in the NFL is going to look like a really smart coach. They're going to be a really good kid and a good snapper.